Hello there everyone, and welcome to my first video on my new channel, GrahamTheBuilder. If you're not familiar with my work, check out the link in the description below to see my Flickr. Today we're going to be looking at a behind the scenes of one of my latest creations in All-Encompassing Siege. I built this for a medieval contest being held on Flickr. In the category I chose to do, you could build anything you want as long as it fit on an 8x8 base. I think to start things off, I'll show you the back of the build. And first, we'll move this guy as he has a pesky habit of falling off. Yeah, pretty scary, right? You might notice the build has a bit of a lean to it. It's a little bit like the Tower of Pisa. This is because the majority of the build is resting on these few bricks here. It's not the most stable. For this fact, I built it in two chunks, like you can see here. We'll start on the top half and work our way down, as the bottom is really where it gets interesting. My goal with the top half was to create a carefree and fun atmosphere while using many of the things used in a siege. So we have this guy dumping tar down, but he's also standing on his buddy's back. Or this guy climbing up the siege ladder, but he's a bit of a ninny and afraid of heights. On the building side of things, I use the same method for the stonework that I do for most of my builds. Masonry bricks, log bricks, headlight bricks, studs, and assorted plates. I take all these and I alternate and intermingle them all throughout the stonework to create a nice texture. Another technique I'm pretty proud of is how I made the ladder. This just consists of a 1x10 plate with 1x2 tiles put every other stud. You may also notice that the bottom of the top half is rockwork, and that's because I needed one solid layer before I could move on to the landscaping. And as you can clearly see here, top of the bottom half was not that. This part's at an angle, these are all alternating heights, it just didn't work. So I had to create one large, almost plate of rock that I could put over the whole thing and create a clean transition. What's interesting too is that the supports actually serve double duty. I originally just put them in there for aesthetic purposes, but I realized this long one in particular was actually needed to hold up the top half. And I'll show you how it does this. As you can see, there's a small black bar coming out of the beam. This fits into a pre-designed slot and held in place by this 1x4 slope. And I really just designed this so it would keep the beam from moving around, but it turned out that it actually gave a little bit of support to a part of a build that really didn't have any otherwise.
We now reach our feature presentation.
And to finish things out, we'll take a look at the rockwork of the creation. I had a blast making it, and it's easily the highlight of the build. So we'll start with this bit here. As you see when I twist around the build, it's all connected to this Travis brick, which is clipped to the rest of the build. I had to use a long Technic pin in the bottom of this 1x2x3 slope because I couldn't use an inverted one, because then I wouldn't have anything to attach the 1x1 plates and cheese slope that kept it all upright. So the purpose of this chunk was just to fill the gap left by these two, as it actually came last. So it's just a bunch of little slopes all connected in a hairy, scary way, but I think it turned out really well. If I turn around, you can see the hairy scariness, and that the chunk is connected to a headlight brick, which is connected to a Technic pin, which is connected to a bar, which is connected to the rest of the build. And there's this completely different Technic pin stuck up in here just so light wouldn't come through one of the cracks. Here we come to the final and my favorite bit of angled rockwork. It's all just connected to a hinge brick, which is connected to a stud, which isn't the most sturdy way to connect something to a build, but it worked out pretty well. I used a cheese slope under the hinge brick to get it nice and flush with the rest of the build. I'm also quite proud of the offsetted cheese slopes that I used at the top, so it would be smooth up here. Here we have my favorite connection in the entire thing. You see, I had to have something for this beam to clip into on the bottom, but it also had to line up with both this plate and this angled slope. It worked out perfectly because the distance between the plate and the slope is exactly 4 studs, so I had room for the necessary brick with the stud on the side and the clip to connect it to the rest of the build. Well guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Hope you enjoyed it and gained a little insight into this creation. Comment below with what you liked about the build, and I'll see you next time. Adios.